The return to obedience, walking back to the place of waiting the disciples are getting ready to do. Acts 1:12. Then the disciples returned to Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is near Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey away. Have you ever had a mountaintop moment with God? A service that stirred your spirit, a breakthrough in prayer, a word that felt like fire, only to come back home and feel like nothing changed? Been there, done that? The disciples just experienced the greatest moment in human history. They saw Jesus ascend into heaven. Imagine standing there. The Savior you watched died, now risen before your eyes. And then the sky literally opens up and he goes up into the clouds and disappears. And then there's just silence. The clouds close, the angels appear, and the message isn't what you'd expect. The angels say, "Why are you standing here looking in the sky? Go back. He's coming soon. He'll come back the way he came when we went out." That's not what you want to hear after witnessing something glorious. It's pretty fascinating. But you want to stay. You want to hold on. You want to build a monument like Peter tried to do at the Mount of Transfiguration. "Lord, this is a great place. I just see you talking to Moses. Maybe we ought to build something and stay here for a while." But in Acts 1:12 shows us something very critical. The mountaintop is never the mission. Obedience is the mission. The mountaintop experiences are awesome and great, and the Lord allows us to be blessed by them, because we were obedient in doing something He called us to do, or we're involved in something that He's called a group of people to do, and we get to enjoy that movement. But that's not the main thing. The obedience to get to that movement is the main thing. Obedience gets you to the mountaintops. If you're not obedient, you'll never make it to the mountaintop. And you have people sitting in churches around the world today going, "I never see God do anything great like that for me. I don't see God do that today. This is just come to church, be here, and my life's just okay." But they never see God come through in a major way in their life, because there's something He's asked them to do, something He's asked them to be involved in, something He's asked them to start, accomplish, create, be a part of, and they allow the enemy to throw whatever excuse into their life that he can, and the mountaintop experiences never come. Obedience. All right. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is not seeing God move, but walking back down the mountain when He tells you to. Yes.
So I had a situation like that. You guys all know what I've been going through this past month and a half. I've seen God work in mysterious ways, not just physically, but financially, spiritually, everything. And just for one good thing to happen, then a bad thing happens. It felt like, honestly, the devil was just trying to hit me one after the other. And the story of Job came to mind, and how his faith was tested. And I had hit a point where I was like, "Lord, I believe, I absolutely believe, and I have faith, but I can't be Job. I can't today. I really can't." And just when I said that, I got that text message that said I had the place. Oh,
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Do you all know probably why Job got tested so hard?
Because the devil knew that he had a lot of faith, and he was trying to break him.
But why did in Job's walk, when he knew he had the authority to stop the devil. Why? What is the beginning of the first chapter of Job tells us the greatest thing of why Job was tested so hard?
Because he was obedient to God.
You're going to get that. But it says that Job prayed over his family because he feared something would happen to them.
So then he didn't have complete.
So he did not have the faith that he needed to overcome the enemy as it's going on. And the enemy says, you've got fear something's going to happen to your family?
I'm going to use that to my advantage.
He says, I'll sneak in on you now. Oh, you got something's going to happen to your business? I'm going to sneak in on you now. Oh, you fear you won't have enough money to get through the next week? Oh, I'm going to sneak in on you now. And Job was doing the religious correct thing by praying and offering to God just in case his kids weren't living for God. And he was doing the right thing in the right way, but he allowed fear to overcome the faith. And the enemy says, hey, God, I've been everywhere. Who can I pick on? What about Job? Can I pick on him? And God goes, yeah, you want to go ahead? Go for it. And God goes, I take my hands off and let Job use his faith and see what he does. This is fascinating. Listen to the way we talk. In our situations, in certain situations, we have the religious thing, pray for me, but we talk fear, or we talk lack, or we talk being overcome. And the enemy goes, oh, there's a crack in their faith. Let me see if I can get in here and start working on this. Yeah. So think about that in time. The disciples, there was a breaking point. They went from wondering to willingness. Wonder when he's going to come back. I wonder how long we got to stand here. Well, he told us to go back to Jerusalem, and the angel just told us to get going. So I guess we'll go back. As the disciples stood there, their emotions must have been torn. Their minds were full of questions. Where'd he go? What happens now? Well, he told them what was going to happen now before any of that ever happened. They just have to remember what he told them, just like we've got to remember what he told us last week about a situation that he knew was going to come up this week. And we're like, oh yeah, last week in Bible study this came up, and that's exactly what the devil's trying to do. So stop, and the devil stops. Will he really come back? These things, natural things, and any other question you can think of that's going through his mind was happening. But then, one by one, they turned back toward Jerusalem, back to the place he told them to wait. Slowly they began to become obedient and went back to where he told them to be and what he told them to do. That walk wasn't long, it was less than a mile, but it was loaded with faith. He told me to go back, and he told me the promise of the Father is waiting for me. Well, they probably had enough faith to say they went back in time. I can imagine walking into the upper room and I was like, where's my gift? It's waiting for me. It must be waiting for me when I get home. It's waiting for me right now. And the first day they prayed together and they ate together and they did whatever else together. And they're just like, all right, when we wake up in the morning, it's going to be here. Nothing. And they did it day after day after day until finally, well over a month later, the Holy Spirit descends upon the place. Because they were faithful and they said, we don't care if it takes 2 days, 2 weeks, 10 years. We're staying in his room because he said this is where the promise is coming. That's the same thing when we read something in Scripture. It says, God says, I can have this. Or God says, the enemy can't do this to me. Whether it's 2 days, 2 weeks, 10 months, whatever. He's like, no. This is what the Word of God says. And we've got to stand there. They were walking away from the visible and toward the invisible. Well, we don't do this anymore, but when I open my checkbook up and I look at that little balance thing, there's a lot of red in there. That's the visible. But instead of me going on the phone, you can't believe I ain't going to have enough money, I don't know what I'm going to do. My God shall supply all my needs. I don't care what that little red mark says. And you stand on it and you speak in faith. And whatever other promise God has given you, you just keep standing on that promise. But we like to discuss the problem more than the promise. Let me tell you what's going on. And it's fine if you have your select handful of prayer warriors. It's the world that we get into. Because if you'll listen, I'm going to share. It's different if someone comes up to you, how's it going? But it's different when you're seeking them out. Let me tell you what happened this week. Oh, you're standing still? Let me tell you too. And I don't even know you in the grocery store, but can you believe? And you would just praising the devil with our complaining. Ever think about that? We're praising him for what he's doing in our life when we complain. Because obviously it's going to make him happy when we gossip, so we're actually giving the devil praise. They were leaving the experience and returning to obedience. That's where many of us stumble. We love the Mount of Olives moments, the emotional highs, the confirmations, the visions, but we resist the turn back to the place where we're supposed to be. Yet the return is where God refines us. It's where our love starts to become loyalty. Lord, obviously some things are happening in my life that doesn't agree with your word, so obviously I need to return to something. I'm going back to the basics, and I'm going to go back to my upper room, and I'm going to stay there until the promise comes back to me and I start seeing you move in my life again. And you go back to meet him. You go back and you walk in the cool of the day in the Garden of Eden with him instead of running and hiding. God, I'm coming back and I'm going to meet you in the garden. I'm going to meet with you. And I'm going to watch you move in miraculous ways. And I'm going to be there. Obedience often begins in the ordinary. They didn't preach. They didn't prophesy. They didn't perform miracles. They just stopped looking at the sky, turned around, and went back to where he told them to be. I need you to go wait for the promise in the upper room. I need you to dig into scriptures to get enough faith in the situation in your own private closet. I need you to return to what I say instead of what the devil says or what people through the flesh say. I need you to return back to me. So there's a 180 we've got to take throughout our journey, because our flesh will go running off by himself. We're sheep. Sheep just take off and do their own thing and not even know they're doing it. They just start eating that little pile of grass and that little pile of grass and that little pile of grass, and next thing they turn around and there's nobody around, even the shepherd's not there. And they start screaming and hollering, and he goes and finds them. Well, we do that ourselves too, don't we? We start doing our own thing. I got this, I got this now. I got this figured out. So if I just say it this way, and if I just act this way, and if I do this, if I jump up on one foot over here because it worked last time, so it's going to work again, and I turn around 3 times and say, where's Kansas? Where's Kansas? And tap my toes, and I'll get back to Kansas. And he's like, yeah, that worked last time. I'm not going to do it this time. Because you made it a ritual. You've made it a habit. It needs to be a relationship, a one-on-one. This time I need you to do this so that you can accomplish that. So that's a fascinating thing. It's easy to underestimate simple obedience. Well, I want to bake something. I get the cookbook out, open the app, whatever. But I got the list of ingredients. I've got the recipe. But I refuse to use the measuring cup. I'm like, Nah, that's what that is. That sounds like a cup. That sounds like a this. That sounds like a that. And this is that. You know what? I think this tastes good in here. And we bake our own dish, and we're like, oh my, this isn't as good as I remember when so-and-so made it. It may even be okay. But when we start adding our own thing to life, sometimes it's just raw nasty. Well, I like this and I like that, and if I put two together, it's got to be good. Not always. So we try to make our own recipe in our Christian walk, or we don't say, he says, I'll need a cup of this. And we're like, man, it looks like a cup. No, I need a cup. It's got to be a cup. Just something about under a cup doesn't work. Something over a cup doesn't work. If it's a cup, boom. It's pretty fascinating. But in God's eyes, obedience is the miracle. Dang. Hey, Ivan, I need you to do this. Yes, sir. All right, I can bless that because he did what I told him to do. He had every reason not to do what I told him to do. But he did it. He trusted me no matter what. In his flesh, he probably figured some of these circumstances would happen, and he didn't care because I asked him to do it. What are some situations in our life we allowed the circumstances to outweigh our biblical reaction because we just didn't want to go through? God says, this is the way I want to handle things, and we're like, yeah, God, but if I do that, they're going to think this or say that or react that, and I don't want to have that. And he's like, do you want them or do you want me? Whew. Yeah, but if I tell my friend this, then they may not be my friend anymore. Yeah, but if you don't tell your friend this, they're still going to be in a bad spot eternity, but then you're also not being obedient to me, so now you could be less blessed than I want to give you because you're not being obedient. It's a double whammy. And if we do that enough, he says, well, you know what? There's no sense in me even giving you A, B, C's anymore because you're not listening for the last 30 times I've asked you to do an A, B, or C, so I'm just going to sit back and wait till you come home. When you come back to the upper room and you pray over it and you wait over it, and I know you're serious after a time of coming back to me and praying to me and asking me, then I'll start speaking to you again. Wow. Because if God asks you to pray for that person and you don't do it, why would he keep asking you to pray for people? If God asks you to start something, why would he keep asking you to start something if you hadn't started the 10 things that he's asked you to do the last 10 times? I mean, a good boss is not going to keep you around if he keeps telling you to do this way and you keep doing it a different way. He's like, no, that's not how we do it. We got to do it this way because in the long run, this is going to make a difference. Huh. It's easy to underestimate simple obedience, but in God's eyes, obedience is the miracle. The fact that they went back meant they believed him enough to do what he said, even without proof. Yeah, God, I see the red in my checkbook, but you're more than enough. You are going to take care of all my needs. This really in the spirit is got a lot of zeros on it, and I thank you for that because you've asked me to stop doing this, which gives me, in the case where I tell all the financiers, one McDonald's meal, and I put that $15 a month in a savings account, I'll be a millionaire in 30 years. See, I faithfully did that $15. I might not did much more, but you asked me to do $15. Stop eating McDonald's once and put it in there, and I can be a millionaire in 30 years. So, okay, just because I did $15 and I was faithful, we start to see the zeros start to come back. He starts to give you the next step. Now, if you do this and that, boy, you'll be able to leave money for not only you and your kid, but you'll be able to start a foundation, an organization that can bless people for eternity until I come back. What? And then he gives you the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. And as long as you're faithful, that snowball starts to happen in every area of your life. But it's easier to go to McDonald's and spend $15, and then we wonder why we're still in the red. Instant gratification. And I get asked all the time when I talk about the finances, why do I use $15 all the time? Shouldn't it be more? Absolutely, it should be more. I said I use $15 because it's very common and everybody does it. Everybody eats out at a fast food, mostly at least once a month. Everybody worldwide. So if they can't give up one McDonald's meal, they're not worried about their financial future. It's a priority problem that we talk about. It's not a money problem. It's a priority problem. They will be financially broke forever because they refuse to do one simple act to get them starting to see the benefits of that one simple act that God's asked them to do to accomplish the goal that they want and that He wants. Do not despise small beginnings. If you start investing $1 a month and you start to see those pennies come in, it excites you. And it becomes a habit. It's like, I got to figure out how to do $2. I got to figure out how to do more. And it's a very fascinating thing. John 14:15 says, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. Well, is there any wiggle room in that? Does that say on Wednesday I'll give you a cheat day? It doesn't, does it? It's on a diet, you're on a diet. Wednesday's my cheat day and you eat anything I want. And I'm going to eat everything I can get a hold of to take care of that diet that you were doing good on 6 days of the week, but that day you eat 40,000 calories and you just destroyed everything you did all week instead of just, hey, let me at least smell this dessert I like instead of eating it on my cheat day. At least I can smell it, not buy it, eat it. But I'm going to sit at McDonald's. I'm going to McDonald's, and I didn't know McDonald's had a buffet, but they got a buffet today because I'm going to keep laying that car down. I know I can squeeze something else in here before I get sick. I'm going to make sure this. I got 2 more hours till midnight, boy, on this cheat day. I'm going to keep stuffing it in. We do that in every area of our life. Try to get a cheat day with God. God, I'll keep all your stuff. I'll do everything you ask me today. Just give me one day to let my flesh run wild. And it may not even be on the big stuff. Maybe on little stuff. And we get that cheat day. But if you loved me, you would keep my commandments. God don't have cheat days. God doesn't have excuses on why we can or why we can't. He just says, if you love me, you will obey. Jesus didn't say, if you feel my presence, obey me. Because there's going to be a whole bunch of time you ain't going to feel, or you ain't going to feel like he's here. You ain't going to know he's here. You just have to go by faith. He's here. Because he's everywhere you go. He's everywhere I go. Whether I bring him with me or I tell him to stay at home in the closet. He's still there. Because he's everywhere. I don't have to feel him. I don't have to go into a worship service and get goosebumps and cry and go, hoo-ah, to know that he's there. I just have to be honest with him and say, Lord, for whatever reason today, the songs ain't doing it for me. I can't tell that you're here. I'm not getting goose. I'm not getting that emotional dry like I like when I get into worship. So I'm just going to do my best to worship you. For whatever reason, I'm not feeling it today. And he's going to go, well, that's okay. I'm still here. And I said, I know. I said, but it's so much better when I leave on Sunday after I've cried and after I laughed and hollered and after I raised my hands and had to whoop and we had a good old time and I know you were there. You smacked my toes, stepped on my feet, but then you made me feel good about it. And it's like, that's so much better. Instead of going through a service, man, I don't even know if he was there today. Oh, he was there. Jesus didn't say, if you feel my presence, obey me. He said, if you love me. Love is revealed through obedience when the feelings fade. Whew. I say most of you in here had been married or been around marriage enough to know that there was days you did not particularly care for that person sitting across from you at the breakfast table. There was days you rolled out of bed and wished you wasn't in the same bed because you're like, you just ticked me off last night and I still ain't over it. but you chose. Doesn't matter how I feel. I choose to love you, even though I'm really ticked off at you right now. And they better not get mad at you, because I don't care how mad I'm at you, because I'm going to get them if they get mad at you. But I'm allowed to, because you're mine. Maybe you've been standing still, staring at what was, waiting for God to explain what's next. But today He's simply saying, go back to where we started. Go back to where we started. Where did I tell you to meet me in the first place? Come back home. Walk back to the discipline to let go. What do you got to let go? Jesus told me to let go. Jesus told me not to worry about stuff. Got to let it go. Walk back to the prayer time you drifted from. Lord, I used to pray and I used to see you move. You used to speak to me all the time. And it would be like, I'd do it for an hour and it didn't feel like it was 10 minutes. And I just kept going. It was like, it was awesome. We talked all the time. Even had those little micro moments with you driving down the road or going here in a grocery store line. And where are they? He said, you may have to sit in the upper room and talk to me for a little while till I start speaking back, because you need to come back to where we started. Maybe we need to walk back to forgiveness. Got to forgive something or someone or somehow or whatever. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be faithful. God, I'm going to keep coming to you every day. I ain't heard from you in a while. I need to know why. What did I do? Tell me what I did so I can fix it with your help. And if I need your strength, you said you'd give it to me. Because it says, where I'm weak, you're strong. So obviously I've been weak somewhere. Give me the strength to get through. Someone said, faith is not believing that God can. It's obeying when He says go or do. That's faith. Faith is not believing that God can. It's doing what He tells you to do or say when He tells you to do it. That's faith. A lot of people believe God can do a lot of things, but they don't have faith that He'll do it for them. A lot of people believes God's a healer, but they don't have faith that He will heal through them or for them. A lot of people believe God is my provider and He'll take care of me from here until whenever. But when that red mark hits their checkbook, they start wondering, maybe He'll take care of me. Where's the faith that He'll take care of you when you're down to the last hour or the last minute? Say, God's got this. Walking back is part of preparation. The Mount of Olives to Jerusalem was a Sabbath day journey, less than a mile. But that distance symbolized something deeper. The walk wasn't wasted. It was worship. He told me to go back. So obedience is an act of worship. Every step back was a step toward a promise. I was thinking about it this morning as I was praying and talking to God. We have a couple different things we go through in every great movement of God in our life or in an organization. God tells us, I need you to cross the Jordan. I need you to prepare yourself to cross the Jordan. I need you to go to the upper room for the promise. I need you to take several days before we get ready to cross the Jordan to prepare yourself to cross the Jordan. And then on the certain day, I'm going to get the priest to get the Ark of the Covenant, and they've got to step into that raging river at a rip tide, overflowing, at flood stage, and then we're going to cross. What is God asking you to put your feet in the middle of a storm? Prepare yourself. The storm is coming. But I need you to step into the storm, because once you step into the storm, I will calm the storm. Maybe not until. But then, once you walk through on dry ground, through the middle of that raging river, you're getting ready to go into a new battleground, into the promised land. The promised land is where the battle starts to begin. They didn't go to war until they got into the promised land. They were running from the fight. God was holding the Egyptians back. Once they got into the promised land, now they got to fight. I'm giving you the promised land, but you got to take it. Oh, by the way, this is how I'm going to get you to take Jericho. I want you to walk around it every day, make a little noise, and then be silent. And then on the last day, I want you to do this, that, and the other, and then be silent. And when the walls fall, go in and just take it. Because I'm going to use that one act of obedience to send fear of me throughout the nations that I'm about to give you. Because how many times in the Old Testament after Jericho did we hear, those are the same people that just walked around the most fortified city in the world at that time, and the walls fell down. Their God delivered it to them. Who are we? We're nothing like Jericho. We have no defenses. We're just a little group of people. Their God's going to squash us. Oh yeah, Gideon. Remember that? I want you to go down there and hear what they're saying about me. Man, Gideon must be God's representative, and God must be getting ready to take us out, because he's following God. And you remember what God did back then? And God confused the people, and the people defeated themselves. And Gideon and his few bandits had to go down there and just clean up the scraps. Time and time again, the obedience of the people to get prepared, the obedience of the people to step into the storm, to go to the upper room and wait for the promise, to get into the promised land, to do exactly what he called them to do. And that's when the real fight starts. And we go, hey God, that obstacle over there is in my way, holding back my ministry, holding back my family, holding back my relationship, holding back my finances, holding back this. What am I supposed to do? Nothing? Fine, I'll just keep praying, thanking you, and blessing you for that. Hey, what am I supposed to do? I need you to do A, B, C, and D. Ooh, that looks pretty tough. This is what I need you to do. Until you do it, that obstacle is not moving. I may give you a miracle at some point, but you're not getting taught if I have to keep moving all the miracles and giving you all the obstacles out of your way to where I can teach you to do it. And all you have to do is obey me when I tell you to do and see what I ask you to do. In that room, God was forming unity. They were praying. They were remembering His Word. They were waiting for something they'd never seen. The upper room became the classroom where obedience grew into expectation. What are you expecting God to do? Or expecting God to change your situation? Because hope is not going to get it there. Hope is for us, gives us a little glimmer of something good happening. Faith will get you there. But if you don't believe He can do it, how are you ever going to build faith that He will? And then when He specifically tells you A, B, or C, and you don't do A, B, or C, or you don't do them in the order that He gave you, how can we expect Him to move that obstacle? Maybe your life feels quiet right now. You're not on a stage. You're not seeing the results you hope for. But don't despise the upper room. Use this time to strengthen your faith muscles. The quiet season is where God is stretching your endurance, sharpening your hearing, and test your patience, so that when the Spirit falls, you're ready to carry it. Wow. I'm going to the upper room. I'm getting ready. At some point, that that obstacle's fallen. It has no choice because my God said so. And if I have any ABCs and 1, 2, 3s to do, I will do that. But maybe it's just as simple as, hey, Rhoda, will you pray for me? And God's going to use her faith to help my faith tear that wall down. And then that builds both our faith. And it builds all the faith of the testimony that we're sharing. Well, you know what? I felt God telling us to pray this way, and we did, and within X amount of times, God removed that obstacle, and now it's smooth sailing because we trusted God. It's a fascinating thing. Obedience positions you for power. I'm going to skip a lot of it. The Holy Spirit didn't meet them on the mountain. He met them in the place of their obedience. Moses would walk up the mountain, meet with God, walk back down the mountain and tell the people. On one occasion, he walked up the mountain, came back down the mountain, and he was glowing because he was in the presence of God, and it overshadowed him. So he had to hide his face because the people were scared that he was in the presence of God. Well, doesn't that explain when you start doing exactly what God wants you to do and God starts moving in your life and you start changing because you can't act that way or do that, people start getting mad at you because they can't handle the presence of God on you. So we got to hide our face. But that ain't what he wants us to do. But it's still also fascinating that every time that Moses met with God on the mountaintop, he came back down obedient and did what he asked him to do. And then at some point he went back to the mountain. So when we hit the mountaintop, we thank God and we come back down to do what he tells us to do. And then we do all that and then we go back to the mountain. What's the next step? But we like to stay either on the mountain or we like to stay down with the people. But that's not what he's called us to do. The same is true for us. Power is not found in the movement. It's found in alignment with God. Obedience is the doorway through which God's power walks in. Somebody quoted that. That's a pretty good quote. Obedience is the doorway that God walks through. Pretty fascinating. And we got to go. So where's my ending here? Get this. The disciples, they learned that obedience is not the end of experience. It's the gateway to empowerment. When you obey in the dark, you qualify for the power and the light. The same hands that were lifted in worship on the mountain would soon be hands God used to heal, to preach, and to reach the world. If they had stayed on the mountain, they would have had memories. But because they returned, they received a ministry with memories. It's pretty good stuff. See y'all next time.